Hi, so this is BlackBerry Limited. I'm continuing on with external analysis with the beginning here of part two. So the industry environment continued. Moving on to substitute products. As I mentioned earlier, within the mobile computing industry, the cell phone industry, and really other technology-driven industries, there are currently a lot of several substitute products in this area that have different features and different functionality. So those two critical characteristics consumers consider before purchasing. And this is another one when I want to not to beat the dead horse, but BlackBerry did not consider substitute products until it was much too late. And then when they tried to develop a product to compete with those substitute products, they could not match the competition and ultimately led to their decline. Interfirm rivalries, really rivalry is strong and competition is fierce within the mobile computing industry. Apple, BlackBerry, Samsung, they're direct competitors and the initial competition was fierce. Samsung was able to withstand that competition and they currently are a major player, whereas BlackBerry could not, reacted too late, and that's why they are now forced to develop a different strategy. So this next part of the external analysis is really that competitor analysis. So the primary competitor for BlackBerry Limited is really Apple. And Apple is a dominant leader in the mobile computing industry. We all know of Apple products. We know of the iPhone. We know of the iPad. They're both popular. Every new rollout of an Apple iPhone is almost like a holiday. It's a national event. It's celebrity driven. This really pushed new corporations and enterprises to look at allowing Apple, the iPhone and the iPad into their business and really pushed BlackBerry out. They were willing, consumers and corporations, enterprises, they were willing to sacrifice security in order to get the better features and functionality that resonated with their employee base. And Apple, as we know, is very visionary. They're forward looking. And not only are they a dominant leader in the mobile computing industry, but they're also looking and developing footprints in emerging markets and emerging trends in industries such as music and movie streaming. Samsung, also very competitive within the smartphone and mobile computing industry. Really, that whole Android phones really resonate as well with consumers as another option for those that don't want the iPhone. The S4, the S4 Mini, the new S5. These are all very relevant devices that provide competition for Apple. So now I'm going to move on to more of an internal analysis for BlackBerry Limited. And I have a lot of information to share in the next 4 slides, and I'll try to touch on what's important. So the company RIM, obviously known for BlackBerry devices, allow users to be connected. It was that initial idea to keep people connected to their business, to their jobs, and to provide provide email on the go, provide information on the go. So they're located in Waterloo, Ontario, and now they have shifted from RIM to BlackBerry Limited. So they are not solely located in Canada, but in reality really lease facilities throughout America and Europe. They were financially very stable up through the end of the first decade of the 21st century, and now they struggle at the beginning of in the first half of the second decade of the 21st century. And they're struggling from a cash flow. They've burned through a lot of profits trying to develop different strategies, most of which have been unsuccessful. So continuing on with the internal analysis for BlackBerry Limited. Really, for any R&D type company, it is important to have the best knowledge to produce products such as BlackBerry, etc. Really, going forward, they will need to be able to identify, attract, develop, motivate, and retain skilled employees, but not only skilled employees, but they really need visionary employees. They need new ideas. They need to be forward thinking, and they need to start to dive into different industries, for example, the network of the Internet of Things, in order to get an early footprint, gain that vital market share, and really be able to drive and push profit and revenue growth. Moving on, really one of it's not necessarily a competitive advantage, but it's where core competence is really their human resource department. And they really leaned and leveraged on this department for the early success. Now, as they're in transformation mode, they really need to find out really what department provides them the most competitive advantage. And my guess is that going forward for BlackBerry Limited, that really must be their marketing, their research and development. Those are going to be the critical areas that help really define where they're going forward. So, in summary, BlackBerry has become an asset to any company person use it, or was. As we move forward, the mobile computing and cell phone industry, the product they offer, the BlackBerry, has become less of an asset. And as they shift gears and go into different industries, they must establish that first new idea, that new great idea that they can develop, such as the BlackBerry. But once developed, they need to continue looking forward. You can't become complacent in this industry. Complacency kills. BlackBerry, RIM, they were complacent and they paid the price for it. Now, they still have an opportunity to shift gears, to change the score, and really identify that new market, that new great idea, and we'll talk about that coming up here shortly. So, BlackBerry Limited, what is their key problem? Well, as I mentioned, RIM enjoyed early success with the launch of the BlackBerry. It was driven primarily by enterprise users, and the competitive advantage they created was not only giving people email or connection to the business on the go, but really it was around that security and that level of security they provided that gave comfort levels to those enterprise users. RIM failed to react to Apple and Samsung and the new features functionality available from their new product offerings. The smartphone market was a new industry. Mobile computing was a new industry. Apple and Samsung both realized that that was the trend, that was what was going to happen in the future. BlackBerry was complacent. They didn't react, and iPhone sales took off. Android sales took off. BlackBerry sales plummeted. And by the time they decided to react to that smartphone industry in that new fast-growing segment, they were too late. People had moved on, and they no longer had a competitive advantage to offer their consumers. Continuing on with the key problem, really BlackBerry, for some time, even after Apple and Samsung launched, still was popular with enterprise users because of that enhanced security that I mentioned earlier. However, that was not enough. Pretty soon, a lot of new millennials, a lot of more technologically savvy type employees began to permeate organizations, and Apple and some Samsung had product offerings and smartphones with features and functionality they preferred, and corporations and enterprise users really they were at that crossroads. They continue to offer a product that has diminished in relevance, or go towards these new devices to continue to attract and fulfill their employee base. And they soon shifted. Most corporations soon shifted to a bring your own device mentality. People could log on to VPN, log on to their networks at their job with any type of device, whether that be an iPhone, an Android phone, a BlackBerry. RIM should have seen this coming. They reacted too late. In the introduction of their first BlackBerry smartphone, it didn't have the same features, the functionality, the comfort level that people had with Apple and Samsung, and sales followed accordingly. So, the summary of the key problem, BlackBerry Limited now offers a mobile computing device that does not resonate with consumers. So, their enterprise user footprint, which they still had strong growth in, that's diminished as well. So right now, BlackBerry's leadership must decide whether or not to continue to compete in the mobile computing industry or shift gears and enter new markets. Which leads me to recommendation number 1. As I mentioned earlier, John Chen, the new CEO of BlackBerry Limited, is a forward-thinking, visionary, innovative type leader. Chen realizes BlackBerry is at a crossroads, and he sees a new market with all the new products that, such as automobiles, appliances, and wearable technologies that have IP addresses and can collect information. What are people, personal consumers, businesses, corporations, what are they going to do with this information they have now access to? Corporations, they have a need to manage that information. So Chen has identified this new strategy to type into what he calls the network of the Internet of Things. We believe BlackBerry should continue to invest in this strategy. This is a new market. They have a chance to gain an initial stranglehold in this market and really begin generating cash flow, generating revenue, generating profit. Recommendation number 1. Recommendation number 2. Really, this is two-facet recommendation. First, they need to continue to create a footprint in the internet of the network of internet technologies, which we said has enormous growth potential. They have the opportunity by doing so to generate significant cash flow from which they can reinvest in other R&D, other marketing, to really come up with that next mobile computing smartphone big idea. Right now, the smartphone industry, although growing, is still becoming a little stagnant. Each new iPhone offering really offers little new features from the previous rollout. Same with the Android phone. The market is ripe for that next big idea. So BlackBerry should take all this new cash flow and profit that they can get from this new network of the Internet of Things, reinvest, and really come up with that next great idea. Recommendation number 2. Recommendation number 3. If you look at Apple, they were not only successful in mobile computing and cell phones, but they've kind of dabbled in other complementary type products. Apple TV, iTunes. These are all great examples of stuff that once you decide that you're going to go with an iPhone, you need to go purchase these other things as well. Music download growth, however, iTunes, for example, has slowed while music streaming, online streaming, continues to grow at a high velocity, as well as movie streaming. Both are becoming very popular, just streaming on your own TVs. You don't have to go get a physical DVD or Blu-ray. We believe that BlackBerry should also offer a complementary product. And really, they should try to invest in the growing movie music streaming industry. Recommendation number 3. In summary, we would go with recommendation number 2. It's the most favorable idea for BlackBerry. They still have the core structure of a device that they can go create a product offering with the features and functionality that would resonate with people. So continue to invest in the network of the Internet of Things, grow that cash flow, grow that revenue and profit growth base, use that money wisely, reinvest, and come up with that next great idea, which really we have about a 2-year window that they really need to go do that if they really want to be successful. So they must be aggressive in timing in order to launch a new smartphone while the market is still complacent and stagnant. So that concludes our internal and external analysis report for BlackBerry Limited from Kurt Hyland and Jason Medlock, team number 7. Thank you, and I look forward to getting your feedback soon.